ग्लोबल स्किल डेवलपमेंट मिशन में आपका स्वागत है।
All right, now that we have some typography terminology under our belt, let's now talk about typeface styles. But, before we really jump into this, I want to welcome you to your next obsession. It is very, very easy to get addicted to typefaces because there's so many of them out there. There's, quite honestly, thousands and thousands, possibly millions of different typefaces that you and I can get into and start incorporating into our designs. There's, of course, lots and lots to choose from. What I want to talk about here, though, is the different types of typefaces, if that makes sense. Most typefaces can be classified into one of four basic groups, and those four basic groups are serif, sans serif, script, and the last one is decorative. Perhaps you've heard of some of these anyway, but do you understand the difference between them all? That's what this exercise is all about. The first type of typeface, or style of typeface that we're going to talk about is serif. Do you know what a serif font is, or a serif typeface is? Well, here's some examples. Caslon is a serif typeface. Times New Roman, that's the classic serif typeface. And the last one that I have here for you is Georgia. Notice that all of these characters they're called tails coming off of, for example, the letter T in Times New Roman, or the letter N in New Roman. The N has tails on the beginning of the character and the end of the character. The letter R, the letter G, all these extra little bits, those are called tails or serifs, okay? So that's what a serif typeface is. If you start digging around inside your own lists of typefaces, your own fonts, you'll find that indeed you do have some serif typefaces kicking around. Okay, the next one that we have is sans serif. Now, as you might guess, sans meaning without. So fonts that do not have the tails or the serifs. For instance, Helvetica. If we compare Helvetica to Times New Roman, for instance, Zurich is another sans serif typeface, one of my favorites. And we also have one called Century Gothic. Of course, there's many, many other types of sans serif typefaces available. These are just three simple examples. Notice they're very blocky, they're very straight lines, and so on. No decorative tails or anything like this. Okay? All right, now, next up, we have script typefaces. These are always very elegant-looking typefaces, or most often elegant-looking typefaces, like Bickham, one of my favorites again. We also have Edwardian. Notice very, very decorative, very elegant-looking, very scripty-looking. And there's another one called Matura. Now, notice that Matura isn't as elegant as the two previous examples, but it's still a script font because it has that script or that handwritten almost look to it. So anything that looks like it's done with a calligraphy brush, or anything that's been written by hand, or anything that's very elegant looking would fall under the category of a script typeface. Okay? All right, now, we've got one more that's decorative. Let's see some examples of decorative typefaces. Anything that's kind of artsy or kind of wild or kind of out there that doesn't seem to be a serif or a sans serif or a script font. Here's one that I love. It's a comic book font, of course, as you can see. Bada boom. I love the name of the typeface as well. Here's another one, Hobo. You've probably already got that one installed on your computer. And here's another one, Rosewood, kind of a country and western feel for Rosewood. So very artsy, very decorative, very stylized typefaces would all be considered decorative typefaces. Now, if you'd like more information about the various typeface styles, I've got an article here for you. Pack a lunch, though, because it's one heck of a URL. It's one heck of a trip to get there. It's going to be fonts.com/content/learning/fontology/level-1 /type-anatomy. We're almost there, /type-classifications. It's worth the trip, though, if you can get yourself here, because this article here talks about a little bit about what we've already discussed in this exercise, the main categories of typefaces. So, for instance, serif, sans serif, script, and decorative. But what they do is they go even further. So, for instance, within the serif type styles, they have a variety of subcategories: old style, traditional, neoclassical, slab, and so on. Same with the sans serif type styles: grotesque, square, geometric, humanistic. Same with script. So you can really start to get some good examples of exactly what we're talking about here. The difference between serif and sans serif fonts, and then breaking it down even further. So for instance, here's the sans serif type styles. You can read up on grotesque sans serif type styles, and they give some examples. And you can compare that to square sans serif examples, and so on, all the way through the entire article. And I believe there's a link for a PDF download of this article if you want to hang on to it. Okay, so there you go, a really great resource. Now, additional font resources. There is a endless supply of font resources online. I've got a handful here for you to get you started. We're on fonts.com, so you could go directly to the main page, fonts.com, which is a great way to really get started with fonts. You can read about fonts, you can purchase fonts, you can try fonts out here. A really, really great resource for getting started with fonts in your own design work. Now, there's a variety of other resources, of course, as well. Should your interest in fonts turn to obsession, you can always go to fontfeed.com and keep up on the latest news related to fonts, and you can get into type tips and fonts in use, which is a variety of examples they have here. Another really, really great resource for fonts. Okay, you can get into downloading some fonts. You can get into a site called dafont.com where you can go and try out some fonts. A lot of the fonts here are available for download, but a lot of them are for personal use only. So watch out if you're doing commercial work with a lot of these fonts. But again, as you can see, things can get quite obsessive very quickly. You go, oh, that's awesome. I got to try it out. Download it, install it, try it out. Come back, try another one. It gets obsessive, and next thing you know, the hours turn into afternoons, and the afternoons turn into weeks, and the next thing you know, you haven't seen a human in the last 3 weeks. In any regard, here's another resource for you, 1001 free fonts. So you could certainly come here and try out some of the fonts that they have here as well. Do be aware, again, of the licensing related to the fonts, though. You want to make sure that if you're going to be using these fonts in commercial projects, you want to make sure that you're not infringing on any copyrights. Now, all of this said about the seemingly endless amount of fonts, you may find yourself feeling overwhelmed at all of this. So what we'll do in the next exercise is I'll show you how to whittle down your choices and come up with a small set of fonts that you may want to use in your design that, again, reinforces the message, the communication that the design project is trying to convey. Let's go and check it out.